Alrighty, so this video is in response to Mark Cuban saying that tanking is good for NBA teams. First and foremost, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, please. Forgive me, I'm kind of losing my voice here. I don't know what's going on, but make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, though. So let's get straight into it. So Mark Cuban, a couple of days ago, he comes out and he basically says that, well, he literally says that tanking is good for NBA teams. You know, he goes on to say, I'm paraphrasing, he goes on to say that people don't necessarily remember, well, you know, this is when they go to basketball games. He was saying that people don't necessarily remember if their team won, who did what dunk, who made what shot, and things like that. And I kind of understand him, but I don't agree with that. And later on in this episode, I'm going to explain to you guys why I don't agree with that take by Mark Cuban. So Mark Cuban also said, paraphrasing again, he was saying that what people really remember when they go to these games is not if their team is tanking or losing a bunch of games, but they remember who they were with when they went to the game. Were you with your dad, your parents, so on and so forth? Now, I do agree with him on that because a lot of the NBA games that I've been to, I always remember who I went with. But that still doesn't justify a team tanking. So the reason why I disagree with Mark Cuban is because when you're a fan of a team, like I rock with the Bulls. That's why the name of this channel is Let's Talk Bulls Podcast. But today we're just talking about the NBA in general. So obviously I rock with the Chicago Bulls, right? So I want the Chicago Bulls to always win as many games as possible. You know, even when I was playing basketball, you know, organized basketball in middle school and a little bit in high school, my goal was to try my best to play my part in helping our team win as many games as we possibly could. You know, so I don't understand the mindset that Mark Cuban has. I'm kind of surprised that he just straight up said that. I mean, I like honesty, don't get me wrong, but I am surprised that Mark Cuban had this take on tanking, you know, because I just totally disagree with it. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Maybe you agree with him, maybe you don't. So just getting back to why I believe that his take is really messed up, you know. So you have people, you pay to show up to see your favorite team play. You know, whether you're sitting in the close up seat, the seats, the expensive seats, or you're sitting all the way up top in the less expensive seats. You know, you show it. First of all, you're taking time out of your day. You're taking time out of your day. You're paying for parking. You're paying for food. You're paying for concessions. You're paying for whatever else when you go there. So, I mean, even if you sit at the top, I mean, you're still going to come out paying, depending on what you buy, more than likely like $100 for the game. You know, so you don't want to come and see the team just getting destroyed, having a bad product out there on the floor. You know, what it's all about is even if your team is bad, I mean, now this is another thing I do agree with Mark Cuban on. Now, he did say that, okay, you can't win every game. Okay, obviously not, right? You know, you're not going to win every game. Only one team is going to win the championship. Again, he's correct on that. So, but and I know I can't speak for every fan, but from my perspective, being a fan of the Chicago Bulls, what I expect, and just the NBA in general, not even just the Chicago Bulls, because I believe that a lot of people share this same mindset that I have. So when you go to a game or you're watching your favorite team play on TV, what you're really looking for, okay, give an honest effort. Go out there and play your hardest. We know that we're not going to win every single game. We know that we have low chances to make the playoffs or to play in or win the championship, so on and so forth. But what we're looking for is just, okay, play hard, play your part, play your role, come together as a team. You know, the coaches as well. You know, give it your best shot and try your best to win the game. You know, so when you're intentionally sitting players, and I don't know if it's the coach's decision or upper management telling these coaches to sit players. I have no idea. All I know is what we see on the surface on you know on YouTube and on NBA websites and things like that. They give reports on things like that. So all I know is what's on the surface. But I think it's really messed up when you have players who are not injured, they don't have a serious injury, or they're just resting, and it's for unjustifiable reasons. Now, don't get me wrong, we're all human. Sometimes we get sick. Sometimes things happen in our personal lives and things like that. But to be intentionally sending players out with hopes that, okay, I'm gonna sit such and such out today. So this is going to obviously lower our chances to win this game, and not only this game, but the rest of the games for the season. It's going to lower our chances, but it's going to raise our chances, especially since this is a strong draft coming up, the 2026 NBA draft. This is going to raise our chances to get a top 3, top 5 pick in the NBA draft, and I'm just not rocking with it. I think it's a messed up mindset, especially when you're dealing with players who are highly competitive. They don't want anything to do with that. Or I would imagine that they don't want anything to do with that type of approach to the game. So again, I'm surprised that Mark Cuban said that. I mean, I always respect honesty. I'm big on honesty and stuff like that. So that's the only thing I can respect about what he said. At least he was bold and upfront about it. He said what was on his mind. A lot of people don't do that. But I definitely disagree with Mark Cuban on that one, because that's not what people pay to show up and see. When you go to the game, you want to see a good product out there. You want to see your team try. You want to at least see your team try their hardest to win the game. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know what's up with all this tanking going on. And then on top of that, they're saying that it's like 3 to 5 players in this 2026 NBA draft that can be franchise-changing players right away. So you've got a lot of teams tanking right now. Utah Jazz, Brooklyn Nets, the Chicago Bulls. I don't know if we're tanking, or I don't know what in the world we're doing. We'll talk about that in a different episode. But you've got several teams tanking, and only so many. It's only going to be obviously 3 to 5 teams that end up in that top 5 slot. To pick one of those top 5 talents in this upcoming draft. So, say you do all this tanking, and then say you do end up with one of the worst records in the NBA, or the worst record in the NBA. You're not given as high of a chance as you were in the past to even get a top pick. You might end up picking number 7, like the Bulls have picked a lot of times over the last several years. You might end up picking number 10 or something like that. I think the very worst record, you can pick no lower than number 5, if I'm not mistaken. But I may be mistaken on that. Let me know about that in the comments. So it's just ridiculous. It really is. All of this tanking, it's messed up. Like I say, I'm rocking with the Bulls, even though I don't know what in the world we're doing a lot of times, especially this season. But what I expect to see is that they just go out there and play their hardest. They try to actually win the game, and you can respect that. But when you're sitting players out, players are all of a sudden coming up with end of season injuries. They're out for the rest of the season and stuff like that. It's like, it's a bad product, and it's insulting to the. I believe that it's insulting to many fans. So another thing that Mark Cuban said, which I understand him, but I don't think that you should intentionally do this. So Mark Cuban mentioned that when your team loses a lot of games, it gives the fans hope. I'm paraphrasing. It gives the fans hope. Okay, all right, we're having a bad season, but at least we'll get like a top 3 or a top 5 pick. I get it. You do kind of have that hope there. He's right on that one. But my issue with it is when you're intentionally doing it. When the coaches, the general manager, and the higher ups, the team owner, whoever is responsible for this stuff, when you're intentionally orchestrating this and you've got X amount of players sitting out and things like that, I do think that there should be a pretty hefty fine for that. What team was that just got fined the other day? I think it was the Utah Jazz, like $500,000, $500,000, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that there should be penalties for that, because when you think about it, and maybe I'm going too deep on this, maybe I'm being too critical or something. Let me know what you guys think about what I'm about to say. in the comments. So when you look at what's going on with the gambling in the NBA, you've got people getting caught up in that. Chauncey Billups, some former NBA players, Malik Beasley, several NBA players, unfortunately, have been getting caught up in that. And some of them have not been proven guilty. So I guess it's safe to assume that they're innocent, possibly. So, but when you look at that scenario, and then you look at what some of the owners, the coaches, the managers are intentionally doing to lower their team's chances at success, I think that should be viewed in the same light as gambling. That's just me. Maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I'm going overboard. Maybe I'm being too critical. Maybe it's something I'm not thinking about there. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, because I do believe that these teams should be held accountable for intentionally, that's the key word, intentionally holding players out. Like we're kind of coming up on the end of the season here. It's the All-Star break right now. So kind of historically, but especially in the last, I want to say 15, let's say like 10 to 15 years or so, a lot of players are rested at the end of the season. You start getting into March where you've only got like 20 games left, and people start feeling like, the games don't matter. And don't get me wrong. Sometimes I like to play both sides of the fence, just keeping it real. Don't get me wrong. I can see how somebody can be thinking like, okay, it's the last 20 games of the season. We're a lock for the playoffs or a lock for the play-in or whatever. Let's kind of ease up on playing our players too many minutes. Let's kind of ease up on our superstar player, or let's kind of take it easy on our star player, because we don't want to chance it. We don't want to keep playing them 35 plus minutes and risk the chances of them being injured. And now our season is down the drain. I get it. I really do. I remember when the Bulls when the Bulls were winning a lot of games, and D Rose was getting injured every now and then. This is before he had the big injury. I was kind of thinking that then, like real talk, like, hey, okay, they kind of need to sit D Rose out a few games, let him rest up and get ready for the playoffs. But really, in reality, I think that it's so much bigger than that, because you have people with different types of work schedules, different types of financial situations. Now, somebody may have saved up their hard-earned money to go see, let's just say, I don't know, Anthony Edwards or something. So say somebody saved up their hard-earned money for a year or 2 years, 3 years to go to this NBA game, or they finally got a day off of work. The kids are finally on spring break or out of school or whatever, and they show up to this game that they have high hopes for. They really want to see Anthony Edwards or their favorite star player. And not only is that player not playing, or those players not playing, but there's no justifiable reason why that player or those players aren't even playing. They're not sick. They don't have any serious family issues going on. It's just nothing that's really justifiable, And maybe it's something I don't know. I always kind of give that disclaimer, because all I know is what we see on the surface on YouTube and on the internet. But on the surface, it seems like a lot of times, a lot of the players, it's nothing serious going on. They're not injured. It's no family matter they have to tend to. They're just out of the game. And I know me, like if I spend, let's just say I save up for a year, 2 years, get some really nice seats, take my wife and kids out to the game, go out to the game with my brother or whoever, and those good seats gonna cost a lot of money. Even if you're sitting at the top with a few people, say you pay for all the tickets, you buy concessions, paying for parking, paying for other food. You know how it is when you go out. You spend a little bit more money than what you want to sometimes, but it can add up. So you spending this money, you took off time from work, you finally go to this game, the star player isn't even playing, or the players that you wanted to see aren't even playing. And the team is just fine with that. They're like, oh yeah, we just gonna rest them, whatever. Okay. So don't get me wrong. So sometimes, I don't get me wrong. I get it. I'm just keeping it real. I get it. You want to rest the player for the playoffs. You want them to start the playoffs not being so rusty. You want them to be well rested. You don't want to risk them getting injured. I 100% understand that. But the key word to my opinion on this is intentionality. The intention behind it. I mean, I'm sorry, not intention. The key word I want to use is just it's not justified. You know, you're not injured. You don't have anything going on. You're just out of the game. So that's my take on that. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Usually I'm talking about the Chicago Bulls, but it's All-Star break, so I'm branching off and just talking about the NBA in general. Hopefully nobody else implements what Mark Cuban says is a good idea, because I don't think that that's a good idea. Again, I get it. I can see why teams would do it, but I think it's much bigger than these teams. You look at the fans who support the players. I think that that's the biggest thing right there. So come out, play hard, do your thing, try to win every game. You know you can't win them all. You can't lose them all either, you know. But at least come out and put your best foot forward. Give an honest effort. I think that's all the fans really ask for. So is tanking good? No. Something needs to be done about this situation here. This has been going on for a long time. The NBA needs to find a better way to distribute the chances of who's going to get the number one pick, number two, number three, so on and so forth. They need to figure out a better way to do that. I can't think of any solutions off the top of my head, but the NBA needs to do a better job at that, because we're at this point in the season now where teams are going to just basically throw in a towel. It's going to be a lot of people sitting out. There's going to be a lot of people with injuries that, you could probably come back from after a few games, but they're going to be out for 15, 20 games, or out for the whole season and stuff like that. It's just messed up. It's just become a normal part of the NBA. But I think it's bad for the game. Hey, that's just my take. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. Maybe I'm overdoing it. Maybe I'm overthinking it. It's okay if you disagree with me. Maybe you agree. That's fine too. So let me know what you guys think. Feel free to chime in. I will reply to your comment. Thank you guys for checking out this episode of Let's Talk Bulls podcast. I know I didn't talk about the Bulls really, but like I say, they're on. This is All-Star break, so just figured I'd branch out, talk about some other things. Make sure you guys do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I'm at 45 subscribers right now. Let's try to get that number up to 50, y'all. I'm trying to be more consistent with this. Easier said than done. But yeah, thank you guys for checking out this video. Peace out. Have a good day.